Hi, I'm Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making spiked caramel nuts. And you know those animals that are narwhals, they have that long horn on them, they look like whales, or they're a type of whale or whatever. We're going to be making that on nuts. And we're going to form caramel like that. And I actually showed you this on one of my videos, on one of my, I think it was my maple pecan lightened pound cake. So if you want to go see how to garnish that pound cake, I use that. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make these. So we're going to make caramel first. I have 1 cup of granulated sugar, 2 tablespoons of corn syrup, and I'm going to add 1/4 cup of water. And I'm going to stir this to get it going. You don't want to over stir when you make caramel, but here you want to actually make sure all the 2 sugars are blended together. Corn syrup is a type of sugar. It's actually dextrose. And your granulated sugar is known as sucrose, and that's comprised of 2 different types of monosaccharides, but let's not make this a chemistry class, right? So I'm going to put my spoon down and I'm not going to stir anymore. But what I do have is a pastry brush. So if I see any little bits of sugar, and you might be able to see there's little bits of sugar crystals on the edges, I'm going to just wipe those down because I don't want any seeding to start. Seeding means that you can actually start a reaction where crystals will start forming and you'll end up with rock candy. We don't want rock candy. We want caramel, smooth caramel. All right, so I'm going to turn this up and I'm going to watch it. Right now it's clear. The sugar hasn't even dissolved. We're waiting until it actually cooks the sugar. The heat will cook the sugar. And the first thing you're going to see come up is puffs of steam. That's the water evaporating, and then eventually you're going to see this, not only the sucrose, the granulated sugar, it's going to break down into its 2 component sugars, and it's going to form caramel. Now, I have corn syrup in here, I have granulated sugar in here, and together, because there's 2 different sugars in here, we are going to prevent crystallization because crystals can only form with 1 type of sugar. It's like putting blocks together. You can only build with square blocks, but if you start introducing triangular blocks, let's say 1 sugar is a triangle shape and 1 sugar is square, you can't put them together and build a block wall. So here we go, we're starting to boil. We're not actually breaking down the granulated sugar here, but we're introducing that second sugar, which is that corn syrup. Now there's something else known as inversion. You can actually do the same thing and add a little lemon juice to this or cream of tartar, and that acid with the heat will actually break down that sucrose, that granulated sugar. And we wouldn't need the corn syrup, but we're sort of doing it in an easy way by adding that corn syrup. So do not leave this post. You are stuck here. You're going to make sure that you are watching because these bubbles are going to become volcanic. And if it gets really overwhelming, we're going to turn the heat down or take the pot off. I also have a measuring cup of icy water. So in case I get burnt or spattered, I always have it handy because sugar syrup clings and it will cling to your skin. So we're going to sit here, we're going to wait for this to boil, and we're looking for it to turn color. So we're cooking our sugar, and we're going to see if it gets to a brewed tea. And that's when we're going to come back. So our caramel has gotten to brewed tea color, sort of a medium brewed tea. And I've taken some toothpicks, and I have skewered some nuts. And I'm skewering them so when I dip them in the caramel, they'll drip down. And I'm going to let gravity work by hanging them. And I made this little apparatus. I took a big bowl and I'm taking a plate over it and I'm going to put the nut like this to drip and allow that caramel tail to drip all the way down, and I've covered parchment paper on the bottom of my surface. You really want to make sure you cover everything because you're going to end up with caramel everywhere. So let's try our first one, and you can see The caramel looks really nice. We're going to move it over. It may not totally be ready yet because it's making very thin skewer. So you'll see it's not completely ready yet. So we're going to give it another second. I've also done some almonds. You can do any nut that you really feel comfortable doing. Sometimes they split open and you have to do more. But you can see we have a little tail here, and I like them really long because they're really cool when they're long. So you do have to wait until the caramel's almost like spinnable, like cotton candy. And this is, you can see, is not ready yet either. But you can see it's starting to drip. So give it another minute, even just several seconds. And we're going to come over and you're going to put it underneath. Okay. And twist it so that it's the way you want it. Some nuts are top heavy one way, so you sort of have to manipulate them. And they look pretty no matter what you do. So the caramel's not totally there yet. Let me skewer one for you. I have the round, really pointy toothpicks. And again, any area of the nut will do, but you really don't want to go all the way through the nut. So this is a pecan. All right, let's try this and see how this goes. Whoa, look at that. Did you see what happened there? So that caramel just started breaking down. And be very gentle when you dip it. You might dip it a few times, move it over, and see if you can just shove it under. Okay, see, that one came out really nice. Let's do some almonds. The thicker it is, the thicker your strand will be. So that's why I let it go sometimes a long, long time. I did these for a competition once, and I actually had newspaper on the floor, and I made them where they were super long. And then what you do is, as they harden, you wait till they harden, and then you can go around and snip the length that you want with scissors. So let me do a few more. But you can see how pretty they look. And the thicker it is, the thicker the strand. The thicker the caramel, the thicker the strand. Super pretty as a garnish on any dessert. And a secret that a lot of people don't know. I used to do these for competitions that I was in, and I actually would freeze these. So I didn't have to make them right before. You can actually freeze these. You put them in a parchment-lined airtight container and just lay them down. You will take the toothpicks off and put them in a freezer. And they really keep very nicely. On a humid day, you may not want to serve them on a hot, humid day. But you see that? How beautiful that looks. So I double dipped this almond again, and it sort of pulled apart and made this like little twin, almost looks like an antenna. And they're really cool. So I'm just going to leave them. I'm going to put them on my parchment paper, and I'll dislodge it from my toothpick after. And if you feel that the spike is like not spiky enough for you, you can actually cut this off with your scissor and go in again as your caramel gets thicker, and watch what we're going to get. We're going to get an even thicker strand of caramel going down. All right, or you can get doubles. All right, so this is really a nice one. I like this one just the way it is, nice and thin. But it's hard, so I'm just going to I'm going to show you. You just pull it off from the toothpick and just work with it. You'll see it sort of, it's going to be a little gooey, and it'll come off, and then just push that caramel in. And you have it. It's gorgeous. Let's do a few more. Having so much fun. All right, so we're going to get this pecan in here. And remember, our caramel's really, really thick now. Watch this. I'm going to pull it over, stick it under. Okay? Woo! So you can almost pull the sugar. You want to be careful you don't get it on your fingers, but it does burn a little bit. But you can see how thick that is. Let's do one more, and then we're good. And we're going to garnish something with these. So I'm going to do one more. See how thick it got? Look at that. Let it drip down, and then bring it over, and then stick it in. And then when they get to the length you want, you just come over. They've got to dry first, like this one, and just snip it. See that? And that's beautiful, and that's what you're going to put on your dessert. All right? So I'll show you some desserts you can use. All right, so I'm trimming my caramel spiked nuts to the length that I want them. And I have something that I can garnish them on top of. And I have a beautiful caramelized pecan here. And I love to put them on just regular dessert items and really elevate this dessert. This was just a beautiful brownie that I just baked. I put a little ganache on top, and then wham, just jumped it to sky level, right? Because no one's going to give you a dessert like that. So have some fun, make some caramel spiked nuts, and for more videos, go to my website, gailsokol.com.